Welcome to the Deep Dive, your ultimate shortcut to being truly well-informed. We take a stack of information articles, research our own notes, and basically unearth the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight. You get those surprising facts and hopefully just enough humor to keep you hooked. Today, our mission is to take a stack of top headlines from India, specifically from Sunday, June 29th, 2025, and really unpack them. This isn't just about reporting what happened. It's about understanding the layers, the why behind the news, and maybe even glimpsing the what's next. We're about to dive into a fascinating, detailed conversation that goes far beyond the surface.
And it's quite a collection of headlines we have today. The sheer breadth and diversity of topics covered in just, one day's news are truly remarkable. It really offers a unique window into the multifaceted nature of a nation like India. We're talking about everything from, geopolitical tensions playing out on the cricket field, to fundamental constitutional debates shaping a nation's very identity. We'll delve into the intricacies of international foreign policy, the dynamic shifts in market trends, critical concerns around aviation safety, the awe-inspiring frontiers of space exploration, and even, believe it or not, the internal workings of bureaucracy. Our goal for this deep dive is to extract the key insights and connections that often get lost in the daily news cycle, helping you, our listener, understand the bigger picture and the deeper currents at play.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's kick things off with something that stirs the soul of millions across the subcontinent. But at the same time, it reflects these really deep-seated geopolitical tensions. Cricket. For ardent fans in India and Pakistan, there's been a significant and, frankly, much anticipated development regarding the Asia Cup 2025. This major tournament, slated for September, is now confidently expected to proceed, and that's despite the recent spikes in India-Pakistan tensions, which were particularly inflamed by the tragic Pahalgam terrorist attack. According to CricBuzz, the Asian Cricket Council, or ACC, is on track to release the full schedule in early July. This is truly monumental news because for a little while there, many fear this highly anticipated tournament might not actually happen, which would have led to immense disappointment for fans. Now, breaking down the tournament details a bit more, it's going to be a 2020 or T20 event. For those who might not follow cricket that closely, T20 is a much shorter, really fast-paced format of the game, designed for high-scoring, explosive action, making it incredibly popular and exciting for audiences.
Absolutely. High energy.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at 6 teams competing: India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the UAE, and one other team that's yet to be confirmed. Now, here's where the geopolitical tightrope walk really comes into play. While India holds the official host designation, the tournament will very likely operate under what's known as a hybrid model.
Right, the hybrid model.
Yeah, this sort of innovative arrangement means that the United Arab Emirates will serve as a neutral venue, specifically for all India-Pakistan matches. This crucial agreement between the Board of Control for Cricket in India, the BCCI, and the Pakistan Cricket Board, the PCB, basically ensures these high-stakes games are played away from home grounds. It's a deliberate strategy designed to, hopefully, diffuse some of the intense political heat that invariably surrounds these matchups and prioritize the sport itself.
What's particularly fascinating here, and it's a critical piece of context, really, is that India and Pakistan have maintained this strict policy of not engaging in bilateral cricket series for years now, for a long time.
Yeah, only in big tournaments.
Exactly. They only ever face each other in multinational events like the International Cricket Council or ICC tournaments and, of course, the Asia Cup. This makes every single one of their classes incredibly rare and, immensely coveted. So when the recent surge in political tension, particularly in the wake of the Pahalgam attack, raised genuine fears that India might actually withdraw from playing against Pakistan, even in these international events, it was a truly devastating prospect. Not just for the fans on both sides who eagerly anticipate this, storied rivalry, but for the global cricketing community too. It's honestly not an exaggeration to say that an India-Pakistan match is one of the biggest spectacles in global sports. The viewership figures are colossal. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes abundantly clear that despite the deep geopolitical friction, the sheer commercial and cultural power of this rivalry ensures its persistence. It just keeps going. You can see evidence of this beyond just the Asia Cup. Recent decisions by the ICC, for example, have already set India-Pakistan matchups in both the Women's One-Day International and T20 World Cups. This isn't solely about preserving a tradition, though that's part of it. It's profoundly driven by the significant financial revenue and the truly massive global viewership these encounters generate.
The money involved must be huge.
Oh, immense. The scale of the financial and cultural stakes involved is enormous. These games are huge revenue drivers through broadcasting rights, sponsorships, advertising, you name it. This commercial imperative means that preserving the clash becomes a top priority for governing bodies like the ACC and the ICC, even when they're navigating intense and often volatile geopolitical strains. In a way, the sheer magnetism of the game and its economic engine often finds a way to sort of transcend some of the political divisions, at least on the playing field.
That's a really insightful point about how the commercial and cultural power of the sport can create these pathways, even if they're neutral ones, for engagement where direct bilateral ties remain, well, strained. So what does this all mean for you, the cricket fan? It means you can look forward to these high-stakes contests resuming, even if it's under controlled, neutral conditions. It's a testament to how, even amidst deep national divisions and political complexities, there are shared passions and economic realities that find a way to manifest. Okay, so from the vibrant playing field where national identities clash yet, in a unique way, find common ground through competition, let's now shift our focus to an even more fundamental and profound debate about India's very constitutional identity, a conversation happening right at its core. All right, this next headline dives into an intense public debate that has been brewing and really gaining momentum. It touches upon the very foundation of India's constitution. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi recently made a pretty significant claim that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the principal architect and chairman of the drafting committee of India's original constitution, actually rejected the inclusion of the terms socialist and secular during the drafting process itself, way back then.
Right, during the original drafting.
Exactly. This statement was made during a media interaction in Haveri, Karnataka, and it landed squarely in the middle of ongoing discussions. These discussions were originally triggered by earlier remarks from the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, General Secretary Dattatreya Hosbale, setting the stage for a deeply charged constitutional discourse.
This raises a profoundly important question, doesn't it? Especially regarding the historical context of these specific terms in the Constitution. Hosabale's initial suggestion was to reconsider the inclusion of socialist and secular in the Constitution's preamble. His assertion was that these terms were, and I quote, forcibly inserted during the tumultuous emergency period, which spanned from 1975 to 1977.
The emergency, right.
Yeah. To elaborate a bit, the words socialist and secular were added to the preamble of the Constitution through the 42nd Amendment in 1976. This was during the emergency declared by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Hosabale's comments were delivered at a rather symbolically significant event, too. One marking the 50th anniversary of the emergency, jointly organized by the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts and the Ambedkar International Center. He argued that the emergency represented a dark period where power was egregiously misused, dissent was brutally silenced, and press freedom was, well, eliminated. Therefore, in his view, the terms added during such a period necessitated a reassessment, looking at their historical insertion and the specific circumstances under which they became part of the preamble. This argument touches on the very integrity and, the legitimate evolution of the constitutional document itself.
As you might expect, those remarks from Minister Joshi and Hosabale drew swift and sharp criticism, particularly from opposition leader Rahul Gandhi. He didn't mince words at all. He accused the RSS of a much grander objective, seeking to dismantle the Constitution entirely, and even more starkly, to replace it with the Manusmriti.
The Manusmriti, yes.
For those unfamiliar, the Manusmriti is an ancient Hindu legal text, often called a law book or code of conduct. It's been widely criticized, especially in modern democratic discourse, for its caste-based hierarchical principles, which rigidly define social order and status based on birth, a system fundamentally at odds with contemporary ideals of equality and social justice.
Completely different framework.
Right. Gandhi asserted that the Constitution, as it stands, explicitly guarantees equality, secularism, and justice. Values, he contends, the RSS allegedly finds intolerable or contradictory to their ideological vision for India. He went further, making a powerful public vow that the Congress Party would defend the Constitution to the last breath, framing this entire debate as a profound battle for India's foundational values and its future direction as a republic.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, it becomes clear that this entire debate is far more than just a linguistic quibble. It's not just about two words.
No, much deeper.
Much deeper. It reflects these fundamental ideological rifts in Indian politics, particularly concerning the interpretation and evolution of core constitutional values. This isn't actually a new debate in India. The very concept of secularism in India, for example, has historically differed from the Western notion of strict separation of church and state. It's often interpreted as sarva dharma samabhava, basically equal respect for all religions.
A different interpretation.
A very different interpretation. The intensifying discussion signals a renewed clash over the very essence of historical legacy, the definition of national identity, and ultimately the future direction of democratic governance in India. It highlights a foundational tension between those who view the Constitution as a living document, perhaps open to reinterpretation or even correction based on historical context, and those who view it as an unshakable bedrock embodying certain universal, unalterable principles. The fact that this debate is resurfacing with such intensity now, perhaps fueled by the current political climate and a renewed focus on historical narratives, just underscores its critical importance for the nation's trajectory. It's truly a foundational argument for any democratic nation grappling with its identity.
That's a critical point about the differing interpretations of secularism and how these historical moments continue to echo in present-day debates. It really speaks to a nation deeply engaged in defining itself. Moving from these incredibly complex and deeply felt internal dialogues about national identity, which, as you can hear, are incredibly nuanced. Let's broaden our scope considerably now to how India is perceived and positioned on the global stage, especially in the context of shifting and, frankly, often unpredictable international dynamics. Okay, our next headline transports us into the complex world of foreign policy, specifically India's approach under what was a very unique and often unpredictable era, Donald Trump's presidency, and looking ahead to a potential second term. Former National Security Advisor M.K. Narayanan, a highly seasoned and respected diplomat, offers a critical assessment. He asserts that India fundamentally misread the dynamics of Trump's America First strategy. This isn't just a casual observation. It's a significant critique coming from someone with deep insider knowledge of international relations.
Narayanan's characterization of a potential Trump administration is, well, quite clear and stark. He describes it as deeply self-centered, with a foreign policy fundamentally rooted in transactional benefit, not strategic partnership.
Transactional, yeah.
Exactly. To elaborate, America First was seen by Narayan as essentially a zero-sum game, where every international relationship was assessed purely on what direct, tangible benefits it could offer the United States, immediately. He argues that Indian policymakers were operating under an illusion, perhaps expecting continuity from Trump's first term, or maybe even assuming that India, as a major democratic ally and growing economy, would receive some form of preferential treatment or a special strategic status. This illusion, according to Narayan, has been dispelled, especially after recent India-Pakistan tensions. He suggests that these tensions highlighted India's miscalculation in how a transactional Trump would react, particularly if he perceived India's actions as not directly serving U.S. interests or even, complicating them. Narayan takes his critique even a step further, suggesting that India has inadvertently become an outlier rather than a trusted and reliable ally on crucial issues like trade, tariffs, and even its nuanced stance on Pakistan.
An outlier. That's strong.
It is. In his view, India failed to truly grasp that Trump viewed global relationships strictly through this lens of tangible benefit and immediate transactional gain, rather than focusing on long-term strategic alignment. He even made the quite controversial suggestion that China, and perhaps even Pakistan, had more to offer the U.S. in terms of geography, strategic utility, or resource wealth from Trump's perspective.
Wow.
Now, this isn't to say that this perspective is universally accurate or strategically sound, of course, but it highlights Narayanan's perception of the strictly transactional mindset that he believes defined Trump's foreign policy. Furthermore, Narayanan believes that India's ambiguity towards strategic alignments like the Quad.
The Quad, right.
Yeah.
U.S., Japan, Australia, India.
Exactly. Often seen as a counterweight to China. He believes India's ambiguity there only reinforced perceptions of its unreliability or lack of clear commitment in Trump's eyes. This ambiguity might have been intended as strategic autonomy, but Narayan argues it was misinterpreted or at least not valued in that transactional framework.
And Narayan doesn't hold back when it comes to Indian diplomacy itself. He's quite pointed in his criticism, suggesting it has historically been cloaked in secrecy and, perhaps more damagingly, disconnected from geopolitical realities, unquote. He zeroes in on a significant concern about unclear internal decision-making. He argues it's often not transparent whether foreign policy is truly steered by political leaders with a clear vision, or by bureaucrats operating within established, perhaps outdated, frameworks.
The bureaucratic machinery.
Exactly. This lack of clarity, he contends, has led to a muddled foreign policy that lacks clear direction, coherence, and ultimately effectiveness on the global stage. It suggests a potential disconnect between grand strategic ambitions and the practical implementation of foreign relations.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, Narayan issues a pretty stark warning. He warns that India's long-held assumption of moving toward a multi-alignment model, that strategy that aims to maintain good relations with multiple global powers without committing exclusively to any one bloc. He says it simply hasn't materialized effectively.
Hasn't worked out.
In his view, no. In fact, he suggests that this approach may have paradoxically left the country feeling somewhat isolated, rather than strategically versatile and connected. For Narayan, multi-alignment in practice has maybe become a lack of clear commitment, making India less attractive as a partner in a world increasingly defined by blocs and specific interests. His conclusion is a powerful call to action. He urges India to recalibrate its strategy to match current economic and strategic strengths, end quote. Rather than expecting symbolic recognition or special status based on its historical non-alignment or democratic values alone, India must, in his words, actively offer substantive value to its partners. This means quantifiable contributions, clear strategic positions, and reliable commitments that align with the interests of major global players. Real deliverables.
So, Narayanan's contention is that the Trump era, whether it manifests in a first or second term, demands hard-nosed realism, not idealistic expectations of special status. Plain and simple, he frames this entire period as a profound geopolitical wake-up call for India, suggesting that a fundamental rethink of its international engagement and strategic positioning is not just advisable but absolutely necessary. It's a call for India to truly understand its leverage and its vulnerabilities in this multipolar world. Okay, from the strategic complexities of foreign policy and how a nation positions itself globally, let's now shift our focus to the equally intricate and globally influenced realm of India's economy and its stock market, an area where perceptions and realities can shift really, really rapidly. All right, this next headline reveals a significant shift in global financial sentiment regarding one of Asia's economic powerhouses, India's substantial $5.4 trillion stock market, which just a little while ago was widely considered a safe haven during periods of global volatility, particularly the kind spurred by U.S. tariff hikes under President Trump. Well, it's now showing distinct signs of losing its competitive edge within Asia. This is a notable development, especially given its previous resilience and strong performance during recent global economic uncertainties.
This shift in investor sentiment is indeed quite pronounced and really merits close attention. Back in April, you remember, global investors were actually flocking to Indian equities. They were drawn by the country's relative economic insulation from global trade wars and its seemingly robust domestic demand. That was the narrative.
A domestic story, yeah.
Exactly. It offered a buffer against international slowdowns. However, as global trade fears have somewhat receded, perhaps due to evolving political landscapes or new economic policies, that initial appeal has started to fade considerably. The key concerns that are now coming to the forefront for these global funds are really twofold. First, India's increasingly expensive valuations, which basically means the prices of Indian stocks have become quite high relative to their underlying corporate earnings or growth prospects.
Very pricey.
Very pricey. Investors are finding that they're paying a premium that isn't always justified by the numbers. Second, there's a noticeable slowdown in earnings growth across many Indian companies. As a direct consequence of these concerns, global funds are now actively reassessing and in some cases reducing their exposure to the Indian market. They're seeking better value elsewhere.
And a significant part of that reassessment is directly tied to what we're seeing in a neighboring economic giant, China. Investor preference is actually shifting, with sentiment demonstrably improving toward Chinese equities, particularly those listed in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong listings, right.
Yeah, these shares have been out of favor for quite some time, weathering a period of regulatory crackdowns and economic uncertainties. But they're now gaining significant traction again. This resurgence is primarily due to what's perceived as improving growth prospects in China and, critically, more attractive pricing compared to India, much cheaper relatively.
Valuation matters.
It really does. This confluence of factors is prompting a potential reallocation of capital away from India and back into China, signaling a significant strategic pivot for many global investment portfolios. It's a dynamic interplay that highlights the competitive nature of capital markets in Asia.
What's particularly fascinating here, and a crucial factor playing into this shift, is what we can maybe call the AI gap.
Ah, AI, of course.
Of course. India's market, despite its strong tech talent pool and burgeoning startup ecosystem, lags significantly in offering compelling opportunities within the booming artificial intelligence sector. This is a theme that is absolutely capturing global investor attention, driving massive valuations and capital flows worldwide. It's the theme, really. To elaborate, while countries like the US and China have a clear array of publicly traded companies, from chip manufacturers to software providers, that are directly benefiting from and driving the AI revolution, India has yet to present scalable public market plays that truly align with this global trend.
So not enough pure AI plays on the stock market.
Not enough big scalable ones, apparently. This means investors actively looking to participate in the AI boom, to directly invest in companies positioned for AI-driven growth, are simply not finding the right accessible avenues within the Indian public market. It's a structural gap that inevitably impacts global capital flow.
So what does this all mean for India's economic standing and its appeal to global investors? It's important to emphasize this shift is not yet a crisis, right?
No, definitely not a crisis.
India's market remains substantial and resilient, especially with its strong domestic consumption base. However, it certainly signals a recalibration of global investment strategies and a reevaluation of India's market premium. Its premium pricing, meaning the relatively high cost of its stocks, and the clear lack of compelling AI integration in its public market offerings may limit its near-term upside. It could dampen enthusiasm from a segment of global investors. To maintain global interest and attract continued foreign capital, India must demonstrate stronger corporate earnings across a broader range of sectors, moving beyond just a few standout performers. And critically, it also needs to offer clearer and more scalable exposure to emerging tech themes like artificial intelligence, showcasing homegrown companies that can truly compete on a global scale in these cutting-edge fields.
Exactly. This moderation of foreign inflows, therefore, truly marks a pivotal moment for India's capital markets. It's a signal that they may very well need to adapt their value proposition to stay competitive in an increasingly tech-driven, valuation-sensitive investment environment. The world of finance is constantly evolving, and what worked yesterday, even if it was a strong narrative of domestic resilience, might not be enough to attract top-tier capital tomorrow without significant adjustments to innovation and market structure.
A moving target.
Always. Okay, from the abstract world of financial markets and global investment flows, let's transition to a very tangible and critical aspect of national infrastructure and human endeavor, beginning with a somber but vital look at aviation safety.
Okay, our next piece of news takes us to a critical and, yes, often somber area: aviation safety. Indian aviation authorities have just released their first significant update on the investigation into the deadly Air India Express crash that tragically occurred near Ahmedabad. The big news, which marks a crucial step forward in understanding the incident, is that investigators have begun the process of analyzing data recovered from the aircraft's cockpit voice recorder, or CVR, and its flight data recorder, the FDR. These are, of course, what are commonly and aptly referred to as the black boxes, indispensable tools for any aviation accident investigation.
Indeed, and the fact that both devices were recovered intact is a truly positive step. It's not always the case.
Right.
It ensures the availability of that crucial information. They've now been sent to specialized laboratories for detailed examination and data extraction. This marks a truly critical phase in determining the precise cause of the crash. To recap the incident, it involved a Boeing 737-800 aircraft that was attempting to land during adverse weather conditions.
Very difficult conditions.
It's a 737-800, that's a common plane, right?
Yeah.
Very common. A widely used single-aisle short to medium-range aircraft, a real workhorse for many airlines globally. Preliminary findings suggest the aircraft overshot the runway before tragically breaking into pieces, resulting in multiple fatalities and injuries. The term overshot the runway typically implies that the aircraft was unable to stop within the designated landing area, often due to factors like speed, runway conditions, maybe braking issues. Lots of possibilities. Authorities are now meticulously examining every piece of data from these black boxes, including pilot communication, which records all sounds in the cockpit, not just speech.
Everything.
Aircraft system inputs, detailing how various systems were operating, and crucially, decision-making moments leading up to the crash. This painstaking process is designed to reconstruct the final moments of the flight with as much accuracy and detail as possible.
The investigation into an incident of this magnitude is, by its nature, incredibly comprehensive and collaborative. It has to be. India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation, the DGCA, has assembled a high-level team of its top experts to oversee the technical analysis and reconstruction. What's also particularly notable and vital for modern aviation safety is the international collaboration involved. Experts from Boeing, the aircraft manufacturer,
You have to be involved.
and the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, a leading global authority in accident investigation, are also expected to assist under established global aviation protocols. This level of international collaboration reflects not only the inherent complexity of modern aviation investigations, where expertise from various fields is required, but also the critical need for transparency and precision.
Absolutely crucial.
This cooperative approach ensures that all relevant data and expertise are brought to bear, helping to thoroughly understand such tragedies and, crucially, to implement measures that can hopefully prevent similar incidents from occurring anywhere in the future.
This tragedy, as with all aviation accidents, raises an important question about systemic safety, doesn't it?
Inevitably.
Officials have rightly emphasized that no conclusions about the cause of the crash will be drawn until all data has been meticulously reviewed and corroborated with physical evidence gathered from the crash site. This thoroughness is paramount to avoid premature judgments or speculation. Meanwhile, the grief-stricken relatives of the victims are understandably awaiting updates, clinging to the hope of understanding what happened, and the government has publicly vowed full accountability and support for affected families. This heartbreaking incident has, quite predictably, sparked a renewed debate over airport safety standards and landing protocols, especially during severe weather conditions.
Yeah, you hear about that after incidents like this.
Always. Questions are being asked about runway lengths, braking efficiency in wet conditions, the precise decision-making frameworks pilots use when encountering adverse weather. As a result, aviation regulators are now under immense pressure to enhance preventative measures industry-wide, scrutinizing everything from pilot training and air traffic control procedures to airport infrastructure and emergency response protocols. It's a critical moment for self-assessment and potential reform within the entire aviation industry to reinforce safety.
That deep dive into the painstaking process of air crash investigation really underscores the immense human and technical challenges involved in ensuring safety on Earth. But from these critical concerns, let's shift our gaze upwards, far beyond our planet, to India's soaring ambitions and remarkable achievements in space. This next headline is a truly historic moment of national pride and scientific breakthrough, signaling a new chapter in India's cosmic journey. This truly is a historic moment that captured the imagination of the nation and beyond. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, India's very first astronaut aboard the International Space Station, or ISS, recently spoke with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a landmark video interaction. It's the kind of communication that makes you feel like you're not just living in the future, but actively witnessing it unfold, seeing India's aspirations taking tangible form, literally, in orbit. From his unique vantage point up there, Shukla shared some incredibly poignant observations. Offers a fresh perspective on our world, you know. He described Earth as appearing borderless from space. Yeah, a profound insight that emphasized a sense of global unity, echoing India's own civilizational principle of unity and diversity. He noted how maps we use on Earth often distort our perception of geopolitical boundaries and geographical scales. But when viewed from orbit, through the unfiltered lens of space, India appears truly grand, majestic in scale and spirit. It's a powerful and unifying perspective on national identity, seen from the ultimate objective distance.
Shukla went into detail about the very real day-to-day challenges of living and working in microgravity. Things like the constant need to anchor oneself in place just to perform even simple tasks like eating or reading. Things we take for granted.
You don't even think about it down here.
Exactly. What's particularly insightful, though, and a fascinating blend of ancient practice and modern science, is that he credited mindfulness and meditation for maintaining his mental clarity, focus, and overall well-being while in space. He explained how these practices helped him navigate the disorientation and the intense sensory environment up there. Beyond the personal experience, Shukla outlined 7 pioneering Indian experiments that are currently underway aboard the ISS.
7 experiments is quite a few.
It is. He highlighted specific examples that offer tangible benefits back on Earth. For instance, he spoke about studies on stem cells for muscle loss, which could significantly aid the elderly and those suffering from muscle degenerative diseases. By understanding how muscle atrophy occurs so rapidly in space, another key experiment involves cultivating microalgae to improve global food security, leveraging microgravity to perhaps accelerate growth or discover new cultivation methods. He specifically emphasized how accelerated biological and chemical processes in microgravity offer unique advantages for Earth-based research, speeding up discoveries that would take far longer under normal gravitational conditions. It's like a natural laboratory accelerator.
Prime Minister Modi, during their interaction, was naturally effusive in his praise, hailing Shukla's milestone as a historic chapter in the Gaganyaan mission and India's broader space ambitions. The Gaganyaan mission, that's India's ambitious human spaceflight program, aiming to send a crew into orbit, right?
That's the one. A huge undertaking.
Modi underscored what he called the combined power of science and spirituality in India's growth, expressing confidence that Shukla's journey would ignite scientific curiosity and inspire the next generation of innovators in the country's youth. Modi didn't shy away from setting bold future goals either, stating that India must now pursue its own space station to ensure continuous presence in low Earth orbit and, even more ambitiously, aim to land an Indian on the moon.
Huge goals, massive leaps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are massive undertakings, requiring significant technological advancement, investment, and international collaboration. Shukla, for his part, assured Modi that he was absorbing every detail of his mission for future application. And he shared that international astronauts on the ISS are already expressing eagerness to participate in future Indian space missions, which is a powerful testament to India's growing stature, capability, and collaborative spirit in the global space community. Group Captain Shukla concluded his inspiring interaction by encouraging India's youth to chase dreams relentlessly, stressing that persistence leads to success. He made it clear that his journey was a testament to these principles. Hard work pays off. Prime Minister Modi closed the interaction by stating, powerfully and symbolically, the sky is no longer the limit.
Great line.
Isn't it? Underscoring that India's aspirations now transcend earthly boundaries. He lauded Shukla for expanding the boundaries of India's aspirations in space exploration, truly positioning India as a significant player in the new space age. Okay, from the aspirational heights of space, where dreams are quite literally launched and boundaries expanded, let's ground ourselves back on Earth to explore the internal workings of India's administrative system, and a fascinating, candid critique offered from within its very core. Right, our final headline takes us right into the heart of India's administrative machinery, offering a rare glimpse into its inner workings. IAS officer Ajitav Sharma's candid LinkedIn post has, quite unexpectedly, gone massively viral, offering a deeply introspective and remarkably frank view into the day-to-day realities and systemic challenges of Indian bureaucracy.
You don't often see this kind of public reflection from within the IAS.
Exactly. This isn't your typical official statement or policy paper. It's a raw, honest perspective from someone at the front line, making it uniquely impactful. Sharma, who is a seasoned 1996 batch Rajasthan cadre officer, meaning he has decades of experience within the Indian Administrative Service, the IAS, directly challenges a very pervasive, almost mythic narrative within the service. The idea that every IAS assignment is manageable.
The can-do attitude.
Precisely. He argues instead that this oversimplification masks the true complexity of administrative work that officers face daily. He explicitly states, and I'm quoting here from his viral post, "In IAS, any assignment ain't difficult." But he immediately clarifies that he says this not to suggest ease or simplicity, but rather to highlight how this ingrained mindset diminishes the nuanced and often overwhelming demands of governance in a country as vast, diverse, and complex as India. It's a subtle but powerful critique of the gap between the idealized perception of an IAS officer's role and the gritty, often frustrating, reality.
Sharma's core criticism focuses sharply on what he terms the non-core work problem. He asserts quite provocatively that over 80% of an officer's time is spent on non-core work.
80%, that's huge.
It's massive. He defines this as routine, administrative tasks like endless interdepartmental meetings, dealing with pervasive HR issues, and a constant demanding cycle of reporting upwards, just keeping the wheels turning. This relentless absorption in what he calls busy work, he argues, leaves severely limited bandwidth for mission-driven governance, the actual job. He emphasizes that real impact, the kind of work that genuinely transforms society and fulfills the promise of public service, lies squarely in what he defines as core work areas.
Like what specifically?
Well, he mentions critical sectors such as water management, designing and implementing social justice initiatives, driving education reform, and improving public health. Big, meaty policy areas. These, he believes, are the crucial domains where officers can genuinely shape policy, exercise leadership, and drive transformative change. But they are often sidelined or neglected due to the sheer volume of administrative busy work. It suggests a system that maybe prioritizes process over actual purpose. What's particularly fascinating here, and actually quite alarming when you think about it, is that his concern extends beyond mere time management. It's not just about being busy. Sharma warns that prolonged exposure to these non-core duties, becoming a master of procedural minutia rather than substantive policy, can actually lead officers to develop a false sense of expertise.
Thinking they know it all because they manage the process.
Exactly. They might become highly efficient at managing internal processes, but lose touch with the real-world impact they're supposed to be having. He issues a stark warning about the potential long-term damage. You may feel like you are the expert, but it may take your department on a downward slide. This speaks to the insidious danger of bureaucratic inertia, where internal efficiency becomes an end in itself rather than a means to external impact. It's a deeply critical insight into how internal administrative structures can inadvertently undermine the very goals of public service and ultimately harm departmental performance and public trust.
The public response to Sharma's post has been truly immense and really speaks volumes, doesn't it? Its viral success, garnering over 4,000 likes and more than 500 comments in a short period, clearly reveals that it has resonated widely, especially among citizens who are often disillusioned by perceived bureaucratic inefficiency.
Tapped into something real.
Definitely. The sheer volume of public engagement, the likes, comments, and shares, demonstrates a shared desire for more authentic engagement from officials and a palpable push to prioritize meaningful service over bureaucratic routine. It's like a collective public cry for greater accountability, transparency, and genuine impact from their civil servants, indicating that the frustration with bureaucracy is widespread and the desire for change is strong.
Yeah, and Sharma's message, crucially coming from within the system itself, serves as a timely reminder that real leadership requires not just position or longevity within the system, but clarity of purpose and, crucially, the courage to question convention from within the system.
Courage is the key word there.
Absolutely. It's a rare and powerful instance of introspection and a call for reform coming from a credible voice who understands the inner workings and inherent challenges of the very system he critiques. His post isn't just a lament, it's a provocation, really, for the entire administrative machinery to reevaluate its priorities and modus operandi.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into today's top headlines from India. Wow, what an incredible range of topics we've just covered. Really gives you a vivid snapshot of a nation in constant motion. From the delicate diplomatic tightrope walk playing out on the cricket field, revealing how shared passions can sometimes bridge divides, to the fundamental debates about India's constitutional identity, challenging its very ideological core. We've navigated the intricate world of global foreign policy and the shifts in the stock market, demonstrating India's evolving position in the world economy. And we've examined the very real challenges of aviation safety, the awe-inspiring achievements in space that expand national aspirations. And finally, those vital critiques of internal bureaucracy that speak to the need for continuous self-reflection and reform.
And that truly is the core idea of the deep dive, isn't it? It's how examining daily headlines, even those that seem disparate and unconnected on the surface, allows us to uncover the profound interconnectedness and underlying forces that are perpetually shaping a nation. Each headline, when explored in detail like this, reveals a larger, ongoing narrative about India's evolving identity, its ambitious aspirations, and the persistent challenges it faces, both internally in its governance and identity, and externally on the global stage. It's about seeing the threads that connect seemingly unrelated events into a cohesive picture of a dynamic society.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? It means that even the most routine news items are invitations to explore complex systems, incredible human endeavors, and the very character of a nation. As you go about your day, we want to leave you with this thought to ponder. How do these individual headlines, when woven together, paint a vivid picture of a nation simultaneously grappling with its past, charting its future in the cosmos, and navigating intricate global and internal dynamics? What specific details from today's deep dive stand out to you as particularly revealing about India's current trajectory? And perhaps, what other seemingly isolated news items might be part of a much larger, ongoing narrative of change and adaptation in the world today? Keep digging beyond the surface, because the story is always richer than the headline.